Advisory Board. Hello. I don't know if you can see us, but hello. I don't know if you were watching our earlier one with the Planning and Zoning Commission, but I might just turn it over to Chair Snyder, and you can go through your priorities with council, please.
Well, for starters, I was there for Planning and Zoning, and so I did hear that they're your favorite board.
Oh, I was gonna.
I knew it.
We're going to use our time wisely.
Okay.
Secondly, I just wanted to take a second to recognize the clerk's office. We have our deputy clerk who is normally with us, but she just had a beautiful new baby, and so Karen Corrigan was helping us out for a couple of months, and now we have Clerk Blue stepping in, and so we just wanted to say how much we appreciate the clerk's office and all the work they do behind the scenes to make all of our meetings happen. And the same to the harbor office. Even with our acting city manager and all of his other duties, he still makes time to come to our meetings and to bring in his staff so that they can be a part of them too, and we really appreciate that. Yeah. So I also listened in to the meeting where you approved our priorities, so I know that, so I'm familiar with the changes that you made to our priorities already, and I have informed the board about those. And so I guess I'll ask you, Mayor Terry, would you like us to actually go over and read all of the goals, or do you want us to, I've asked the board members that have things that are particularly important to them, if they wouldn't mind just speaking to those priorities that that kind of speak to their background and what they're passionate about. So if you don't mind us doing it that way.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I mean, I think we can all read the list. So if you want to go into greater depth on some of these, that would be perfect.
Perfect. So I guess I'll look to the board then and see if there's anyone that has something specific that they'd like to speak to. Board Member Paquette.
Thank you. Good to be here with everybody. So let me go back to that screen so I'm looking at it. I wanted to speak specifically about the discussed water and wastewater infrastructure and its ability to support economic growth and evaluate environmental impacts, because a very well-informed advocate, an environmental advocate, got a hold of me and said that by the package, the infrastructure package that the current federal administration is working on is going to include a lot of things to do with the Clean Water Act. And so the thing to remember about our wastewater system and pretty much all of the coastal wastewater treatment systems that are in Alaska, from what I understand from this advocate, is that they pretty much all require waivers to their permits because they cannot meet the current federal guidelines for clean water emissions. So our permit that we're getting from DEC to operate the wastewater treatment plant that we have right now, we know from what I showed you at the EPA site that we violate the BODs and the fecal chloroform numbers in the summer, and we know that last summer, like in Ketchikan, they have the same problem. There were no cruise ships, but their water was still dirty. Their water was still being impacted by wastewater treatment plants that aren't operating 100% correctly. So it's really timely that we got this on the priority list, and we even need to be maybe even more vigorous about getting a hold of our legislators and making sure that they know what our needs are, so that as this infrastructure package gets put together, we're ready for it, and it's ready for us. It's got something in it for us. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board members have something specific they'd like to highlight? Councilmember Smith.
Yes, I'd just like to speak to the energy and interconnect stuff that we've been working on. I feel like that's one that I'm very interested in, and I think we've made a lot of progress as a board for over this last year. So a couple of the new ones there that what we reworded, the track and evaluate the progress of internet or the interconnect policy, heat pump rebate, and other energy related issues to be more broad so that we can better take that input as the year rolls on, and especially with the changes at the electric department, we wanted to kind of keep a broader focus on those plans. But also, on the long-term goals there, I'm going to try to make this a pet project of mine. I'd really like to see the city take the first steps, and this might, with the solarized project that's going on right now, this might actually take a back seat if we see a big success there. But I kind of feel like people need to see these systems in place, and we can maybe set the example there. So those are the ones I wanted to call attention to. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Smith. Oh, that was two hands at the same time. Carl, how about you first? Oh, you're on mute.
Is that better?
There you
We
go.
hear you.
Thank you for having this joint work session so we can speak to a couple of the issues that we might be passionate about. I have two issues. One of them I work with Board Member PACAB, Board Member Smith on the Alternative Energy Subcommittee there for the PACAB. And I'm concerned about two things in that arena. I really would like to see, and maybe it is, but I haven't heard much about it, the heat pump scenario that we were working on, testing to see what sort of feasibility there would be for the heat pumps, because I believe that the city of Seward could greatly, at least the downtown area, could greatly reduce its carbon footprint if we were able to have an alternative source to provide heat for these stores and buildings downtown. And I know a lot of people they don't have forced air, they have hot water-based board heat, and that heat pump system would work really well with that. The other thing is the actual, it would tie in handy with the climate action planning that we're trying to do to help Seward be more progressive in addressing the issue of climate change and making us proactive. I actually believe that the city of Seward has done many things already, the community of Seward, I should say, has done many things already to have a beautiful community and be a lot more clean than a lot of other communities we associate and seen around the country. Now, the other issue I have is, this is a slippery slope I'm going to talk about. I have to be very careful on how I say things on this. I'm referring to the council, the short-term goal regarding all future issues impacting our community, which actually ties in with the viability of all businesses in the community. The community of Seward enjoys a huge sales tax revenue from the business generated down at the harbor, whether they be commercial fishing, like halibut fishing or salmon fishing, or the sport fishing charter industry that ties in handily with the tourist industry. We are controlled, or our businesses and the viability of them are controlled by boards that we don't really have very much representation on. They're very political. In fact, the positions on the board are extremely powerful. And decisions that board can make when they're not based on science but on politics cause huge revenue shortfalls for the city of Seward. So I think it's very imperative for the council and the community of Seward to try not to interfere with the process, but be on the alert for the possibility that something could be very detrimental. That's it.
Thank you, Board Member Hughes. Board Member Jaffa?
Yeah, good evening. In our short-term goal, the first sentence, prioritize city, state, federal priorities for port and commerce initiatives. the port function of the PACAB is pretty important and very clear, and we're assisted to and assist in response to Harbor Master and his staff. The commerce portion of that is one that I have always felt shouldn't take a back seat. And in that, we've had discussions about after the 2020 impact of the coronavirus, where do we go? How do we rebuild our economy? Both in the city and national and state leaders are looking at it, but we have a great example in Seward from a devastating earthquake in 1964, where the city was centered around a single industry. We're no longer centered around a single industry. We have a strong foothold in the harbor, the freight, repair work. We have educational facilities. We have the AvTech facility. This is a broad-based, and of course tourism, which really took a nosedive in 2020. What we really need to keep our focus on, I believe, in the entire East Peninsula, is how to keep that broad economy growing, what to do to be attractive to investment. You can see what happened with JAG. JAG came with an investment which is blossoming. Our chair did the same thing. She and the company have done great things with adventure capital. And PACAB needs to keep their focus, along with the chamber, along with Kenai Economic Development, along with the other things that are going on in Seward, to help promote, find ways to assist and develop our economy so that we have a great future if we seize it. So that's an object that's passionate to me. All the other things we're talking about, board member Hughes has talked about some of the projects that we've discussed. All these things lead into an economic result. We all enjoy living in Seward, but we need to make a living, and that's the long and short of it.
And before anyone else speaks, I'll just say for myself, you've articulated most eloquently exactly what my focus would be for the Port and Commerce Advisory Board. Because I think the commerce piece is something we should be stressing as a community, but the peripheral stuff is making sure that we do that in a calculated and strategic manner. But I would agree with you, and I hope that the board keeps that as their focus during this upcoming year. And I see a few heads nodding. I don't know if anyone else has any comments, but yeah, I think we realize that it's 1965 and we better be ready to play on the field. So do you see that outlined in that resolution that we approved with your priorities and goals? Like is that evident enough, do you think? I mean, it seems like your projects lead to that ultimate vision.
Yeah, so I do think that a lot of times our list here, we have a lot of things that recur yearly, and a lot of them are based on the harbor. However, throughout the year, at every meeting, we have presence from the chamber, and the chamber's executive director is there keeping us up to date on the commerce side of things and bringing things to our attention as they need our attention. I know that it is something that's really important to the board, and that, again, all of the things that we're trying to work on, especially as the things on the list that you see that are related to the utility and that are related to water and wastewater, one of the reasons we want to tackle those is because we know that that's a big thing that drives the success of businesses. That's one of the things that businesses really care about. And so we're trying to look at those individual issues too. But I also would like to see us look at some bigger picture issues as far as commerce goes, and ways to make it a more business-friendly community. I guess we don't have that on the priorities, but that's kind of on my priorities list. In another hat, I'm on the chamber board and I'm on the Legislative Affairs Committee, and that's something that I'm working on there, is looking at beneficial legislation for businesses that could be brought to PACAB for a review, for things to bring to council to try to help to improve the business climate here in Seward. So,
Well, and I think
it's not,
yeah, I think it is on there, support actions and legislation that promote the viability of all businesses, but I think we end up crafting our language in such a way that sometimes it's a little hidden.
yeah, for sure. And that, things like, line items like that also are not, sometimes don't seem as actionable.
Yeah.
Because we definitely are looking for and welcome opportunities to drill down into that issue and to find specific things where we can, really make meaningful change. And I'm so grateful to have a board that's so passionate and so present and engaged. And I know on last year's priorities, we had creating a bunch of subcommittees so that we could do even more work behind the scenes, and that went great. And we've been doing a lot of work outside of our normal meetings and work sessions. And so I'm just so appreciative of the group of people I get to serve alongside here.
Councilmember Casgrande.
I just have a question in regards to support actions and legislation that promote the viability of all business. The only thing, and the chair made a really good point that, what does that look like? Because they're always promoting that. But an example that I was thinking of why the conversation was happening is right now, planning and zoning is reviewing definitions for lodging. Is that promoting business or is that stifling business? Is right now a good time to be stifling business? And so is that something that, planning and zoning can send over to PACAB, and PACAB can take a look at it as well, so that we know that, the definitions have been defined, but also the people that are behind business have also looked at it and they can express their concerns. Just an idea.
I think they already have a joint work session set up regarding the Seward Marine Industrial Center, so it might be helpful to think about meeting about some of those things, or at least running them by them.
Yeah, like making sure that
They're aware.
they get the email that says, look, this is what we're working on, this is what we've done, and we just want to make sure that it's before PACAB they're aware of what we're doing.
That's a good point.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I know that we all try to stay on top of what's happening at all levels of the city, but sometimes we're not seeing it all, or I guess we just don't know that we're welcome to comment as a board. Not welcome, but just because there's not an official avenue or not an official work session, we just don't take that time to comment on it. So I know that the community development director has been so wonderful in reaching out and trying to find ways where we do have some of that overlap and see ways that we can work together. But I also know that council has concerns about us taking on too much and too many joint work sessions. So I would welcome guidance on how you see that happening. Is it something that comes from community development to the board as just a discussion item, and we can maybe have a memo sent back to T&Z, or what the best way to facilitate that would be?
Yeah, that sounds super helpful. Sometimes in work sessions, there's a lot of talk and not a lot of specifics. So if you have an agenda statement or a memo to look at, that might be the best. I'm looking around and seeing if there's any comments. Does someone have their hand raised?
Okay.
Yep. I'll let her share.
Yeah, Linda, go ahead.
I don't want to derail what we're talking about, but in the work session just prior to this, the airport came up, the subject of the airport came up. And I'm not aware that at this point we're supposed to be doing anything with the airport. So I guess I'd just like some clarification on that. Like, where does the airport stand, and should we be doing anything? We had the committee and it was expanded.
Well, I think the project itself is moving forward. I think specific to the airport was more P&Z meeting with the flood board. I think that's our avenue for accruing change and making sure that those rivers are moving again to the east and protecting the airport. I'm not sure that there's any you know, I don't think that we've designated PACAB to be meeting with the flood board. It seems like P&Z is the one meeting with the
Right.
flood board.
Right.
So I think, my understanding is that project's out on the street for bid. I think they're working through some of the land acquisitions. I don't think there's anything that PACAB could be doing right
Okay.
now.
I just wanted to.
That's a good question. But I'm also looking at administration, so I'll let you have a chance to weigh in.
Madam Mayor, so Laura touched on a little bit, working with Jason at the chamber. They've been doing a lot of work and a lot of meetings, still doing virtual to, you know, bring in more infrastructure and businesses to Seward. Like, you know, we're talking about a prop shop, you know, some more other things that's going on. And then that's going really well. I know it's kind of hard to get everybody, you know, at all the meetings on time, but they are working through it with, I know the Chair Snyder's been on them, and I've been on them when I can. So just let you know the chamber's working through that part of it also.
Yeah, that's good. I think the chamber and PACAB working together closely is just pulling the wagon the same direction just gets you there faster and better.
Yeah, and just, Norm, thanks so much for bringing that up, because, again, as many times as I can highlight the hard work that the chamber does, I'd like to. They stood up a Seward Marine Front, which is actually a group of us that have marine businesses that are working towards solving some of the problems in the marine area specifically, and working together and how we can improve our supply chain issues. And it has been so great. You know, we have so many amazing businesses here that are really have this great attitude of working together. And so the chamber providing that opportunity for us to come together and to market as a unit and to solve some of those problems has been great. So yeah, that work has been happening behind the scenes too, outside of the PACAB arena, thanks to the chamber.
Any other comments for these guys? Thank you guys for all your work. You're my absolute favorite board that meets at election time.
Number one.
That I attend. I do watch you on YouTube. I'm sorry I missed your last meeting, but I did catch up on YouTube, so it's nice to have a couple different options there. All right, so with that, we will adjourn for 7 minutes until 6:15. Thank you all.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Carl. Thanks, Bruce. Thanks, Ben. You guys.
Thank you.
Feel like Henry Ford.